Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to OSWCA's 50th Annual General Meeting. Last year, we met on Wednesday, February 12th, 2020, for the AGM, and I have reviewed the minutes for this meeting, and I confirm they are in order. Each of you had a copy of the minutes accompanying today's agenda, which was included in your calendar invite. As you know, the OSWCA is an association of local associations with individuals across the province on our board that represent local members. It is these members who will vote on your behalf at the directors meeting and at the annual general meeting. May I have a motion from a member of the board to approve the minutes of the annual general meeting held on Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. Kevin, second. Dan Corcoran. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Passed.
So the next order of financial business is the appointment of the auditors for fiscal year 2021. The OSWCA Finance Committee recommends to retain M&P Chartered Accountants for their services for next year. As a result, I'm requesting a motion to appoint M&P as auditors for 2021 and appropriate remuneration to be determined by the board of directors. I'm going to make that motion, Dan Corcoran, and a seconder, Mark Van Bree. All in favor, please raise your hands. And that's carried. This completes the OSWCA Finance Committee report. And I now turn it over to Dan Corcoran for the nominating committee report.
The board has approved the nominating report as follows. Jeff Malcock will assume the position of past president, Ottawa representative. Todd Arnott will assume the position of president for 2021. Steve Thomas will become our first vice president, and John Curry will assume the role of second vice president. And thank you to Jim Kelly for continuing to serve as our secretary treasurer. That completes the changes to the nominating committee report.
Okay, go ahead. May I have a motion from a member of the board to approve the nominating committee report as considered by Dan? Ron, seconder? Vince? Thank you. Any discussion? That's fine. All in favor, raise your hands. Passed. So what can I say about this year, but holy hell, what a year. That's me talking. It's safe to say that this was the most uncongenial year the OSWCA has ever had in its long 50-year history. I became president of this association in February 2020, 2 weeks after the first reported case of COVID-19 in the province, and a month before the first wave of shutdowns. The role of being president changed completely. Local association events were canceled, so I was not able to meet all the members and talk about the benefits of being involved with this great organization. No dinners, no golf, no nothing. Instead, the role changed very fast, and we had to focus on how to keep the association cost effective, while at the same time quickly meeting the very real needs of our members, whose operations and labor force were being impacted by this pandemic. It required a lot of difficult decisions and a lot of time attending to administrative issues that aren't typically outside the role of the president. We did not have a playbook for this, but with the support of the board and the staff, we managed through this year quite successfully, as you can see with Jim's report. We went through some dramatic changes and had to make some dramatic cuts to concentrate on our core business. And while difficult, I believe we established a strong recipe for success in 2020 that will serve us well in the years to come. While COVID-related issues continued to dominate our agenda, we did manage to see additional issues addressed in the past year as well. In this past year, we saw changes passed to the permit to take water regulations. Much like in 2015, these changes came at the industry's lobbying efforts. Some of these changes are surface water was not being included in the daily pumping volumes. We are allowed multiple dewatering pits now on a registered single job. You're no longer are limited to pumping 4,000 liters per day per site. Instead, it's 4,000 liters per day per pit. So 5 crews, 2 million liters per job. Great, unbelievable. It also exempts certain construction-related pump arounds on construction sites, which means the ministry is starting to listen to us. We don't take water, we move water, like that good-looking guy was saying in the video. We also saw changes being made to the excess soil regulations to allow soil contaminated with salt to be used in more places. The first phase of this regulation came online January 2021. However, January 2022 is when the regulations will be enforced. What core certification does for health and safety, this regulation does for excess soils. It's going to mean greater expense and increased administrative burden on the contractor, but it will also mean more information at the time of tender about the soils you are dealing with, hopefully. It's a big change, and I'd like you to check out our association's recent video on the YouTube channel regarding excess soil. Excess soils is serious. Please be informed. You don't want to be caught behind. This past year was very challenging and a very different one than I expected as the president. This is not what I signed up for, but I'm glad I did, because it was most important years we faced as an association. The association played a critical role in keeping the industry open and operating and keeping tenders funded despite record deficits. We were forced to make difficult decisions, including the significant scale back in expenses, but we managed to have a profound impact. I was very honored to take this role at the center of the industry at such a critical time. I want to thank the board members for their time and dedication to the association and our industry. They went above and beyond what was called for. The work being done here is very important. And I want to impress upon you to all get involved and continue to pay your industry fund. The reason we have such a strong voice at the provincial table, the reason why we're able to keep working when other sectors were forced to close, the reason why municipal projects are being funded despite incredible municipal budget pressures, is because we have an association doing a great job fighting for every company in this membership. So please help move our industry forward. I appreciate all your support in the past year, and I'd like to thank you all. I wish you all good health. Take care. And on that note, I'd like to introduce your new incoming president for 2021, Todd Arnott. Todd.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Todd Arnott, CEO of Arnott Construction out of Simcoe County Heavy Construction Association and your 2021 OSWCA president. As my first order of business, I would like to sincerely thank Mr. Jeff Mulcock for his dedication to the industry. Jeff is certainly correct. 2020 was a very disruptive year for every company in our membership and to the association. As president over the last 365 days, Jeff helped to steer the association through some pretty stormy waters. It was not your standard year as president, and we really appreciated having Jeff be so adaptable to the role we needed him for. So thank you, Jeff, for your dedication. 2020 was really a watershed year. And I mean this not simply in the sense that the COVID-19 pandemic caused such a fundamental disruption to our lives, but rather it forced some pretty radical changes to be put in place for how we run our businesses and how our industry operates. And I think first and foremost, we learned that the association needs to be nimble and informed of what is happening in local municipalities across the province so that we can respond to changing circumstances in real time. This past year, it seemed as though rules and regulations were changing daily and for a period of time hourly. And it became quite clear that that we needed to fulfill the information sharing role during this pandemic, as so many decisions made by the province and municipalities were impacting different local areas in different ways. For instance, we learned very early in the spring that certain municipalities were not releasing holdbacks due to the provincial emergency order, which allowed them to hold this money unnecessarily. This allowed us to act quickly and decisively to get this issue fixed rather than allowing it to fester and spread to other municipalities. As we look forward into the post-COVID world, we want to continue to cultivate this approach, relying on sharing information in real time to get the association involved in issues earlier. Oftentimes, this may simply be a letter or a second set of eyes on problematic contract language, or just information being passed through our network to make certain that the contractors across the province are aware of things they should be watching for in their tender documents in the pipeline. I want to close by sincerely thanking all the board members for their involvement this past year. It was so important to keep our organization on track and remaining relevant and impactful and cost-effective. I also want to thank all the board members in the local associations across the province, as you all similarly answered the call on behalf of the industry this year. It was not always a pleasant process, as a lot of tough decisions need to be made. And a big time commitment was required at a time when your own businesses also needed more attention than you ever have before. So on behalf of the industry, thank you. Next on our agenda is the association report, which will be delivered by Patrick McManus.
Thanks, Todd. And thanks everybody for joining. We've never lacked for an idea or many ideas and opinions around our tables, because this is an organization of companies that are on the front lines of building the province. The first ones in on new land development. And for 50 years now, your companies have supported this association, helping to build a vision that's unique in the whole country, to educate, to promote, and influence decision makers at the provincial and federal levels on the benefits and necessities of investing time and money and energy into municipal water and wastewater infrastructure. And I think it's quite amazing the forethought that went into establishing this organization all those years ago, as the founders understood at that time that while the infrastructure they were working on was entirely owned by municipalities, there was this need to join together to help influence the broader decisions that were to be made at the federal and provincial tables that were impacting the industry as a whole. So having an association to help represent your interests, your de facto slice of the pie at the provincial and federal levels is so critically important, because there are no construction experts in government, none. It continues to be a misunderstood industry, despite the vast impact that it has on municipal and provincial and national economies. And the founders of the OSWCA recognize this, and its understanding of this has actually carried forward through the years with all of the excellent board members that we've had. It's what's driven the mission as an organization for us. And it's going to continue to drive that mission moving forward, to represent the interests of the industry and to make certain the voice of the industry is heard on any issue that is set to impact it. Over the last year, this has meant a lot of different things, and Jeff and Todd have touched on most of them here. But the key thread that's tied all of our efforts together has been about keeping companies working and keeping investments in the industry sustainable. We've partnered with a group of construction associations and labor organizations who have all been negatively impacted by the scale back in municipal tenders in the fall and early winter. And we've conducted over 50 meetings with federal MPs and provincial MPPs to bring awareness about this issue and what dire consequences it's going to create in municipalities across the province. We've hired lobbyists at Parliament Hill and at Queen's Park to supplement the work that we're doing, and we're slowly starting to see movement forward on this issue. So prior to Christmas, we saw the federal and provincial government jointly announce the second phase of the Safe Restart Agreement, a $695 million fund for municipalities to help them bring their 2020 budgets into balance. It was a direct outcome of the lobbying that we were doing to that point. And now we're working to establish a similar fund for medium and large-sized municipalities to ensure that they receive assistance for their budget overruns in 2021. We're expected to see similar size deficits at the municipal level, and this assistance is going to be critical. Funding. Aside from the big picture advocacy work, as Todd and Jeff both mentioned, we're also looking at ways at enhancing our communications and enhancing the association experience for member companies. And we're going to try to grow how we communicate, particularly into social media. So as we mentioned, we launched a YouTube channel this year with the goal of building it as an industry repository for key information that you need to know about. And I would encourage everybody to check it out. Today, we're also working to enhance member services, including providing consultative services on contracts, specifications, or permitting issues, and advice on advocacy on new things cropping up in your municipalities. Thinking here of things like excess soils, specifications, or community benefit agreements. We're here to provide you with a second set of eyes and opinions on issues. And we can help press our own contact points regarding permit delays and help clarify new regulatory requirements that you're experiencing. That's what the industry fund is for. We're here. Over this last year, we have had to completely rethink how we meet and communicate and organize our industry initiatives, but we've barely missed a beat. We found tremendous success in our government advocacy work and are figuring out new ways to communicate to stay relevant to our members. But it really doesn't come as a surprise when you look back at the history of the last 50 years of this organization. Hundreds of companies and people have been actively involved in our organization, helping the industry transition through an exceptional amount of change over these last decades. And yet, the OSWCA has managed to remain a very key part of the industry, both anchored in its history while also adapting to these changing circumstances. It's a real testament to all of the great people involved over the years who have worked together to keep the organization focused on its members. And I'm very proud to be part of it all and very thankful that the board has put their faith in me to help them accomplish their goals.
If not, may I have a motion to adjourn? Dan Corcoran, seconded by Kevin Arts. All in favor, please raise your hands. This concludes the 2021 annual general meeting for the OSWCA. Again, thank you everyone for attending and have a safe year.